Hello, good afternoon. My name is Afiq, and today I'll be presenting my group's Math Monday project part 2 together with my group mate JunBin. So the task that we were given is to model the potential impacts of the intense background electromagnetic radiation as well as the usage of electromagnetic radiation as a tool to living things, the environment, as well as the social economics to the city. So we have come up with our problem statement, which is how will the impacts of building a nuclear power plant affect the willingness of people migrating to CTM. This will allow the governors of CTM to decide whether they should build a nuclear power plant. Moving on. So these are our list of assumptions. Uh, Nuclear power plants radiate only gamma radiation, which is a type of ionizing radiation and is dangerous. The exclusion zone of 30 km from nuclear power plant. This is an area where no houses will be built. It is taken from the Chernobyl incident. So CTM and current city is similar in terms of cost of living, safety level, and etc. Yeah, so we just want to keep everything else constant. Cost of property is only dependent on the displacement from nuclear power plant. So we know that cost of property has many other factors, but for this model, we will only consider the displacement from nuclear power plant. Government is providing a 10% subsidy on the cost of property, and the reason why they will be doing this is to incentivize people to migrate to CTM. CTM is a technologically advanced city, and there will be significant benefit as the nuclear plant will be able to provide high amount of clean energy replacing fossil fuels. So this is our problem solution as well as the variables. Uh, we start off with the independent variables. D is the displacement from nuclear power plant in kilometers from 30 km to 500 km inclusive. Then R is the risk perception. This refers to the individual's risk perception between 0 to 1 and is dimensionless. So it's whatever the individual thinks of the risk of building a nuclear power plant. Then as well as the benefit of nuclear energy, dimensionless. This input only takes in three values: 0.6, 0.8, and 1.0. This is to simplify our model. So as for our dependent variables, C is the cost of property in dollars. It relies on the displacement from the nuclear power plant as stated in the assumption. So how we calculate cost of property is we take the displacement from nuclear power plant and we multiply it by 10,000 and then we put a dollar sign. Uh, Next is our output, which is the willingness to migrate to the area. This is what we want to find, and it's based on the cost of property, risk perception, and the benefit of nuclear energy. As we can see from our solution, uh, that uh, over here we multiply C by 0.9 because we factor in the 10% government subsidy, and we divided it over 5 million, which is the maximum price of cost of property. Benefits of nuclear energy denoted by B in the problem solution is a multiplier. As the number increases from 0.6 to 0.8 to 1, the willingness of migration will increase. And as for the risk, 1 minus risk is a multiplier as well. So as risk increases to 1, which means the individual will think that it's very risky, the willingness will drop to 0. So now I'll pass on the time to JunBin, who will continue the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Afiq. The graph above shows how the dependent variable, willingness to migrate and stay in CTM, varies with the respective three independent variables: risk perception, benefit of nuclear power, and cost of property. Each graph shows the different values of an individual's risk perception of how harmful nuclear power is in general. The bottom axis depicts increasing cost of property, and the different colored lines represent the three values of individuals' perception of benefit to nuclear power to CTM. The blue line refers to 60% benefit, orange line refers to 80% benefit, while the grey line refers to 100% benefit. After calculation, we have found that the maximum value of willingness is equal to 94.6%, while the minimum value of willingness is equal to 0%. An increase in cost of property leads to decreased willingness, therefore a downward trend in each section. An increased risk perception leads to decreased willingness. Therefore, as R value increases, the range of values of W decreases. When risk equals to 1, willingness drops to 0, regardless of the cost of property and the benefit values. When an individual's risk perception of the harmful nuclear power increases, they become more afraid of staying in an area with nuclear power plant, knowing that they will receive negative effects from living in CTM with a nuclear power plant. Therefore, a decrease in willingness to migrate to and stay in CTM. An increase in benefit leads to increased willingness. As B value increases, willingness increases. The benefit brought about by nuclear power includes nuclear being a cleaner source of energy than the fossil fuels. Nuclear power is highly efficient and hence decreasing electricity bills. By staying in CTM with the nuclear power plant, individuals will benefit from the use of a nuclear power regardless of the area they stay in. Therefore, an increase in benefit reflects a proportionate increase in willingness to migrate to and stay in CTM. Our conclusion from the analysis of the model is that it works because the output values are reasonable. We can also see the expected correlation between the different variables and the willingness to migrate. We do believe that the model can be more accurate in terms of risk aspect. In our model, we use an individual's risk perception of a nuclear power plant. This will be heavily influenced by the information by the media, peer pressure, and word of mouth. A more accurate model will factor in the amount of risk involved in the power plant. The risk will be based on the size of power plant, safety features, and technology. Relative risk is measured with regards to proximity to the site. The shape of graph should look like the function y equals to 1 over x, where x is more than 0, which gets significantly lower with respect to distance. However, the complexity of calculating risk and the lack of data are the main reasons as to why we are unable to improve our model. The risk factor will also affect the cost of property. Another possible improvement is a multi-level government subsidy program. As government will try to ensure complete land usage closer, they will have to increase the incentives for areas that are closer to the power plant instead of a fixed percentage that we are currently having in our model. However, with the lack of data, we are unable to justify the amount of subsidy in the multi-level government subsidy. So for instance, at 30 km away, a government will subsidize 30% of the housing price, while at 400 km away, the government only subsidizes 5% of the housing prices. Our model can be used to determine if building a power plant in an area is suitable. We can see if it is suitable for an area that is constrained by space. This model can be used for urban future planning to predict if people are willing to migrate to CTM. This is a simple model, and quick substitution of values will be able to determine the willingness of a person migrating to the city. However, we also have a few weaknesses to address. We have made some assumptions, such as the cost of property being directly proportional to the distance from nuclear power plants. Other factors affecting cost of property will be proximity to business districts and type of properties. These assumptions are made to simplify the model. However, it makes the model less accurate as there are other factors that will eventually affect the willingness to migrate to CTM. We are unable to currently gauge the risk perception and the benefits of nuclear power plants in a technologically advanced city, as we do not know the technology that they have. We may also have missed out on other living things, the environment, and social economic factors that may arise from the building of power plants. I've come to the end of the presentation. Thank you.